Got my makeup here. Might actually just cover this little spot up. I'm also really sweaty. I'm so hot. I feel like we do come from quite a sweaty family. Like, if I look at my brother, he is like the sweatiest person in the world. And my sister's pretty sweaty too. And I think I'm quite sweaty as well. Right, I love this question. So it says, weight gain when you eat the scary foods, and then ta-da, see, they make you gain weight. I can relate to this so much. I think when you challenge a fear, there are two outcomes. One, this terrifying, awful thing that you think is going to happen doesn't happen. Or two, this thing that you're scared of does happen, and then how do you deal with that? Like, so for example, I had a fear in my recovery that if I ate unrestricted, I would gain weight. Well, shock horror, that did happen. That was number 2. Because no human body wants to be weight suppressed. But even if this scary thing does happen, doesn't mean it's the end of the world that you expect it to be. And actually, my life improved so much around it, and the benefits far outweighed any discomfort I did have over my fear coming true. But having said that, I think we're far too detailed in recovery, and like, you gain weight and you're like, oh, see, it's that thing I ate at 4 p.m. last Tuesday. Like, it's not. Like, no one food causes weight gain. There's no such thing as a weight gain food. And your weight just fluctuates anyway. But I think whilst your weight's suppressed, like, you can't judge anything. You need to get to a point where your body's at its own happy place and it's found its balance. And then your weight's going to fluctuate, but it will do so around like your genetic set range. Not a set weight, but like a kind of range that your body exists happily within. So no, that food you had last Tuesday didn't cause weight gain, but I think you need to get your body to its own healthy weight and have the foods you're scared of regularly to realise like, oh, there is no such food as a weight gain food. And actually my body can just handle food, like it's just going to adapt to these things. But it's never going to adapt whilst it's in weight suppression. What little daily things give you hope in life? I don't know about hope. The dog gives me hope. But things that make my life nice, like lighting candles, having a bath, listening to podcasts, reading my book, being outside. I love being outside. But it's been too hot in Dubai recently. Seeing my friends gives me a real boost. What was your impact of your eating disorder on your marriage? That was a big motivator for me to get better, because I didn't want to be living this double life, like trying to join in with Brendan and seem okay for him whilst behind the scenes doing all my eating disorder behaviours, or like controlling all of his food and his day and what time are we doing this, what are we going to eat then, how's that going to be cooked. That's not the person that I wanted to be, and it's not the marriage I wanted for us. So getting better for our marriage was a big thing for me, and probably for him. I think I've kind of answered this one, but what was the hardest stage of recovery for you, and how did you get through it? Regaining weight I found really difficult, and not letting that be a trigger for me to run back and end up in a yo-yo recovery. But also beyond that, like once I had been challenging my fear foods and I was weight restored, I wasn't obsessed with food anymore, I wasn't thinking about it all day, I was left with a bit of a, well, what do I think about now? So like filling the void, but also tolerating it, not like being freaked out by it and so running back. Would you ever consider going back to uni as a postgrad? Ooh, I would love to. I absolutely love studying. I don't know what I would go back to do though. I'm 25. If you could ever give your 25-year-old self advice, what would you say? Well, I actually went into recovery at 25. I started seeing my psychologist who did CBTE with me. So I would actually thank my 25-year-old self. Yeah, I wouldn't do anything different. I'd say stick at it. I know it's hard, but it's so worth it. What is your favourite memory? Oh, I love that. I think probably giving birth to Alfie, which probably sounds very weird because obviously it was like the worst day of my life at the same time, but yeah, like holding my baby boy, it was the most incredible experience ever. I always admire how you can eat takeaways and enjoy them. How do you do that? I think through going through a period where I hated it and I found it so difficult, but I just did it anyway. I had a real like, is this one less calories than that one? Is it cheaper than that one? Will there be leftovers so it's more, what's that word? Economical than that one? Is this one healthier than that one? Like everything was a balance and an equation in my head. So pushing through that and like having the ones I was most scared of, like fish and chips was probably my scariest one. So having that, not defaulting to pizza because it felt safer for me, but by having all of them, I'm now at the point where I can have any of them. And actually takeaways have almost gotten a bit boring now. I'm like, oh my God, I've had all of these. Like I used to, if we'd say get Chinese, I'd be like, oh my God, Chinese. And I'd eat it. And then like whatever was left would go into the kitchen. And then I'd be going back to the kitchen, like having a bit more, because the taste, it was just so novel to me. And I was like, Chinese. And now like I do like it, but I don't know, it's just not as exciting. And I've had it recently, I know what it tastes like, I know that I'll have it again. Like, yeah, it's just, they're not the best part of my day anymore, or the worst part. They used to be like this combination of the most exciting and the most torturous thing that would happen, and now it's just a bit more like neutral, like it's just a takeaway. How did you allow yourself to eat nice foods like tray bakes and not restrict after? I think it's something I wanted to be able to do. Like I didn't want to be in a pattern of eating something then restricting. So if I want to be able to do it, at some point I have to do it. Like if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. How did you track your progress in recovery that wasn't to do with weight? I don't know if I tracked it, but definitely so much of my recovery would have been invisible to people, like feeling connected to someone when I was in a conversation with them, or like laughing and genuinely laughing, not planning my day around a meal time, or not being so conscious of like going out for dinner later that I thought about it every second of the day or every time I came to eat. Like a lot of those things people wouldn't have been able to see, but they were the huge things in my recovery, which has made my like experience of living just so much more pleasant. How to deal with weight gain after being in recovery for a while already? I don't know if I'm understanding this question right, but I kind of think like you're gonna gain weight throughout your life anyway, like different times in your life, like aging, or if you go through pregnancy, or just different lifestyles or something. Like, yeah, your body's not a robot, so I just think it's just something that's going to happen. But as long as you're focused more on living life than controlling your body, like it doesn't matter. Have you learned any Arabic whilst in Dubai? Really embarrassingly, no. Go-to hair products. Your hair always looks gorgeous. Every day I have skin. No, I'm joking. I don't really use that many hair products, to be honest. Like, I like Aussie shampoo and conditioner, but we can't really get it here, so I just use whatever, and I quite often let my hair dry naturally, and that's it. I don't often brush it. No, I do curl it actually when I can be asked. Like, I use like a wand to curl it, but not every day. Yeah. Now, how to continue recovery when a close friend has an eating disorder? I guess just focusing on yourself, like different bodies, different paths, and this is your life. If your life's impaired because of an eating disorder, then you deserve recovery, you deserve a better life, regardless of what anybody around you is doing. As you move further away from your sickest time, do you feel less valid when having thoughts? I think I used to, because I used to be like, oh, but I'm not the weight I used to be, or I used to, I don't know, whatever. But now, no. Friggin' battery died again. I feel like this video is so boring and long now. Sorry. It's quite difficult to like spice it up. So I'm back to reading questions on my phone, and I've already forgotten what the question was. Hang on. Oh yeah. Advice on dealing with eating disorder recovery alongside a medical condition that gets worse. I can't give advice on that. Definitely need to speak to a doctor. The next question, have you considered adoption? Yes, we have. What we say to ourselves is we will definitely have a family, like one way or another, we're gonna have a family. We do have a family. I've listened to a podcast called The Worst Girl Gang Ever, and they interview people who've like used surrogates or gone through adoption, gone through lots of baby loss. And it kind of shows me like there are options, and somehow it will happen for us. Next question is, I'm getting triggered by normal but tiny portion sizes on my meal plan. I'd speak to your provider about that. And that is the thing I hate about meal plans, is when they can like be restrictive, and I don't agree with it at all. Personally, I think with meal plans it should be about helping you with structure if that's what you need, but also with flexibility, not to feel like hungry or restricted or deprived still, and also helping you to like go over the meal plan and feel okay about that, like rather than enforcing that belief that like you have to stop when you finish this amount. So it's really difficult. I don't know how treatment can get that balance, but yeah, I would just talk to your whoever it is you see about it. This is a longer question. Let me see if I can remember it. It was like, when you're further along in recovery, how do you deal with something like food sounding less appetizing and like losing your interest in food? And this definitely does happen as food like loses its novelty, which I guess it should. Like, food shouldn't be this hugely exciting or scary or incredible or awful experience. Like, I think it should just be a bit more neutral than that. But then there can almost be some like grief around that happening. Like, you've lost this big part of your day, which you used to direct a lot of your like thought, energy, time, headspace towards, as a bit of like acceptance, I think, of like, yeah, food is going to lose its novelty a bit. And like, I still enjoy my food, and sometimes I love something I have, and then other times I'm just like, I don't know, I just eat because I eat. Like, it's not eating because it's hugely exciting. And next question is, have you felt watched in your recovery, and how did you cope with it? This person's moving in with their boyfriend soon. I felt watched when I moved in with Brendan, and that is because I had eating disorder behaviours which I couldn't really do in front of him, or it kind of like highlighted how weird they were. And I think I didn't want to be watched because I still wanted to get away with things. So like challenging those behaviours or letting go of those behaviours and having a more like normalised way of eating. Like, it was scary and I didn't like it, but ultimately it is how I want to live. Like, I don't want to live with Brendan part in his world and part in my own world of controlling my food, because that is very stressful and exhausting for everybody involved. Look who's come to join. Hi Bert. Oh. The next question was about the differences between eating disorder and recovery as a child and as an adult. I think motivation is a big thing that's changed. Like, when I was a teenager, I used to say, I want to get better, but I don't want to. Oh God, Beyonce's here now as well. Ugh. I think I felt quite trapped in life as a teenager as well. Like, I kind of wish I knew as a teenager what I know now. Like, whoops. That I wouldn't always feel so lost or different or behind, or yeah, like that life does get better. Oh, this is so cute. Look at the two of them. And then I also think as an adult there can be more stigma around recovery and having an eating disorder, like as if it's like a teenage illness or you should have got over it already. But I kind of just think it's your life. Like, you deserve recovery at any point, and like for what's left in your life, like you can make it better than living the same eating disorder day. Right, next there was 2 questions in a row about my style and my clothes, which I just find hilarious. I literally don't think I have a style at all. I just wear stripy t-shirts and jeans. The next question is, do you think you always have to do the scariest food in order to rewire your brain? Which is really interesting. I don't know, because my treatment was more structured than that. Like, it was almost like you'd plan what you were going to challenge in a week, and then I'd have to challenge it like at least 3 times that week. But I think either way with those 2 scenarios is, it's just important that you are facing the things that are scary repeatedly, and that's what's going to rewire your brain. Maybe. The next question was, how did I make sure my portion sizes were okay when Brendan wasn't around? This was something I found really difficult, because it was as if like when he wasn't there I couldn't justify eating, or like I didn't want to miss an opportunity to like get away with some calories. I think the way that I overcame that was thinking, like, what do I ultimately want to be able to do in this circumstance? And the answer to that is I want to be able to eat properly on my own. Like, I loved the idea of being home alone in the night and like putting the TV on, getting a takeaway, drinking a glass of wine, and just doing that just for me. So I had to think like, okay, if that's what I want to do, at some point I'm gonna have to do it. Because if I use Brendan not being here as a reason to not eat, like all I'm teaching my brain is that that's what I have to do. So I had to show my brain like different actions and align my behaviours to the life that I ultimately wanted to live, even if it felt more uncomfortable in the moment and it felt like I was doing the wrong thing and I felt guilty and anxious and whatever. Like, that's okay. I could tolerate feeling those things, and I did it because ultimately this is something I wanted to be able to do. A question about how did you deal with interfering family in your eating disorder? Like, it says they care, but they're too involved in like appointments and other things. I mean, I live in a different country to my family now, but when I was a teenager, I had probably one very controlling parent and one less controlling parent. And I did find it difficult, especially because like an eating disorder, or my eating disorder, is very centered around control. Having CBTE treatment I've really loved, because the point of it is to put the patient in control. And so that book that my psychologist wrote, it's guiding parents to like enable their child, but ultimately it's the child who needs to decide to do it. And I really, really like that approach. Like, I kind of wish we'd have had that treatment option when I was a teenager. So definitely recommend that book again. The next question, someone said that they're currently trying to get pregnant and recovering from an eating disorder. And I think they're worried. They said, did Alfie dying, hey Bren, have anything to do with my eating disorder history? Bren's just back from golf.
Boy.
Oh, look at Bertie, it's so cute. Bertie, this is so exciting.
Who's that?
Oh, I'm trying to do this video, you know the Q&A thing I was saying about?
It's got a hard on. Excited boy, that's a hard on.
Put it away. Can't show that on YouTube.
That's a boner. Give a hug. That's how you do it.
But he just wants a hug.
You want to play golf next time?
Bren, I was just answering that question that I said to you yesterday about had my eating disorder history got anything to do with Alfie dying?
Mm-hmm. No.
No. So I can imagine it's something people are worried about. I was a healthy weight when we conceived Alfie, during my pregnancy. I wasn't restricting my food. So no, I wasn't in an active eating disorder, so that obviously didn't play a part. And the fact I had it in my history had nothing to do with it. But if you do have an active eating disorder during a pregnancy, you're at increased risk of miscarriage, stillbirth, preterm labour, low weight babies, impacts development, like neural development. So I guess it's an important question because like it is really important that you are healthy for your pregnancy, but equally I was, and we were very, very unfortunate, and my eating disorder history had nothing to do with it. Okay, so best tips for repeat challenging fear foods. I think expecting that it's going to feel shit is a really big part of it, and knowing that that's okay. You can tolerate feeling anxious or guilty, like you can try and distract yourself from it by doing something else like reading or some arts and crafts, but ultimately if it feels horrible, that's okay. And then after you've done it, not trying to like relieve that horrible feeling by turning to an eating disorder behaviour, so not compensating, because that's just going to negate whatever you've just challenged. So knowing that it's going to feel shit, tolerating that, not trying to undo it, and then going back and repeating it again. Like, it helped me a lot to think about my brain wiring and how I'm going to teach my brain these new behaviours. And my brain's not going to learn from a one-time exposure. If my brain to build new neural pathways, a bit like a sledge building a new track in fresh snow, it has to go down it several times before the new pathway becomes like defined and ingrained, and then that will be automatic. And your old pathways, like your old eating disorder behaviours, when you're not using them, they'll become overgrown, or like they'll become lost in your head, or like snowed over in the sledge analogy. It takes a lot of repetition and a lot of feeling shit, honestly, and tolerating that feeling without compensating to be able to do that.